BBC News, hello, I'm Gareth Barlow. President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine has announced that the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, and the Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin, will visit Kiev on Sunday. He expressed his gratitude to the US for its provision of weapons. Mr. Zelensky made the comments at a news conference held inside a metro station in the Ukrainian capital.
People from the USA will be visiting us tomorrow. I will be meeting the Secretary of Defense and Secretary of State Blinken. I think we'll wait until security allows it before the US President comes and supports the Ukrainian people. This is very important. Tomorrow we will have this conversation and we'll talk about that armament list that we need, about the equipment that we need, and the terms of provision.
He also said that about 500,000 people, including at least 5,000 children, had been deported from Russian-occupied parts of Ukraine to Russian territory. Mr. Zelensky hit out at the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres for agreeing to meet Vladimir Putin in Moscow on Tuesday before travelling to Kiev. Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba has condemned a Russian missile strike on a residential block of flats in the Black Sea port of Odessa. Mr. Kuleba said the only possible motive for the attack was to instill terror among the city's population, and Russia should be designated as a state sponsor of terrorism. Alexei Honcharенko is a member of parliament and native of Odessa.
8 people are killed, including 3-month-old baby. It was for the first time residential areas in Odessa. There were attacks in the suburbs of Odessa. Probably nobody could be prepared for this. Russia is often using Black Sea and Caspian Sea for attacks. For people, it's quite hard to be all the time in shelters.
With the war in Ukraine entering its third month, our diplomatic correspondent James Landell assesses the progress of the conflict and where it might go next.
In just 8 weeks, Russia has turned back the clock, forcing Ukraine to relive the worst horrors of the 20th century. Thousands dead, millions displaced, cities reduced to rubble. And yet Russia has failed to seize Kiev and oust the government. Ukrainian forces have mounted a robust defence and President Zelensky has shown great leadership. But as Russian forces regroup in the east, can Ukraine hold them back? Can Western powers step up their military support and stay united around common war aims? This war is 2 months old, but there may be many more to come.
In other news, more than 100 people have been killed in 2 explosions at an illegal oil refining depot in southeast Nigeria. Family members have been rushing to find their loved ones, but victims have been burned beyond recognition. World news from the BBC. Tunisian officials say at least 12 Africans have died and another 10 are missing after 4 boats carrying migrants sank off Tunisia. A senior Coast Guard official said, however, that 98 were rescued off the coast of Sfax. There were 120 people in total on board the boats. Rescuers in Japan say 4 people have been found after a sightseeing boat went missing off the northern island of Hokkaido. 26 people were on board. The Japanese Coast Guard said it could not confirm whether those rescued were alive or dead. The authorities lost contact with the vessel on Saturday after the crew reported that it had started sinking. The final day of Rio de Janeiro's famous Carnival Parade is underway following the cancellation of last year's celebrations because of the pandemic. The authorities had considered scrapping the event for a second consecutive year, but they instead opted to delay the parade for 2 months as the number of new COVID cases declined. Thousands of tourists have arrived in the city in the past week. In boxing, Tyson Fury has beaten Dillian Whyte to retain his WBC heavyweight title. Fury knocked Whyte to the floor with an uppercut in the 6th round, and the referee stopped the fight. 94,000 people watched the all-British bout at Wembley Stadium in London. The BBC's Ade Adedoyan has this report.
This was billed as something of a homecoming for Tyson Fury, his first fight in Britain for 4 years, and he won it in emphatic fashion. After a cagey start, a perfectly timed right uppercut ended the bout in the 6th round. His opponent, Dillian Whyte, was knocked flat on his back. He staggered back to his feet, but it was in no shape to continue. The referee ended the fight with no complaints from the challenger's corner. It was another dominant display from Fury, who remains unbeaten. Straight afterwards, he hinted it could be his last fight, saying this might be the final curtain for the Gypsy King. It was another momentous evening for Fury in what's been a colourful career.
BBC News.